Now let's talk about the actual file space allocation. Now how we actually allocate the file. Suppose we have find the blocks also. Now the blocks, free blocks are also available. Now the basic issue to allocate the file is most files change over time. So these are the complications, with file allocation. What are the complications? Most files change size over lifetime. Yes, you stored 10 lines today, you come again and you store one more page to that file today, you come after some time, you increase the file of size, you keep on doing this. Sometimes we delete the file, sometimes we, so files are, ever changing thing on our hard disk. Now, some files tend to be read sequentially. So, if you are reading a research paper, if you are reading a document, if you are using, reading some text files or so, your programming files, generally we will do sequential reading. However, there are some files which we will not read sequentially, like database files. Okay, so definitely, if we are reading the file sequentially, then if you allocate sequential space on the disk, that is much useful. If you are not reading the file sequentially, maybe sequential space allocation will still, help. Okay, so files are continuously created and deleted, and this will cause fragmentation also. So if you do continuous allocation, and suppose, so this is file X, this is file Y, this is file Z, and you come in between and delete this file Y. Okay, so now these two blocks are remained empty. Now you have to wait for a file which is either of one block or two block to fill this space if you are following the continuous allocation space. So there are high chances of fragmentation in a sequential scenario. Okay, but definitely you can make use of you know principle of locality. You can cache lots and lots of data together, something like that you can. So let's see how we what actually space, how the space will be allocated to a file by operating system. Okay, again there are different ways. The first way is contiguous allocation. In contiguous allocation, when a file is created, give it a set of contiguous block on the disk. This is very simple method. So whenever we create a file, assume that we will give 10 blocks to the file, right? It is simple to implement also. What you have to do, just search free list for correct number of consecutive blocks and mark them as used. Okay, and we all know how these free lists are stored. Okay, whether it is in the form of bit vector or in the form of linked list. Okay, so just search them, mark those consecutive blocks as occupied, something like that. Okay, so support sequential access is very well. File entire data is stored in the adjacent blocks, no issues. Okay, and whenever you do random access to the file, it is also quick and easy to determine where the piece of data lives. Okay, because you have already allocated a contiguous space to the file. What is the problem with this? What is the problem with contiguous allocation? Yes. So for example, these blocks are already occupied. Okay, whenever you have a newly created file, suppose you want to give three blocks to this file, three consecutive blocks to file, because we are in the contiguous allocation scenario. So either you can start your file from here, from position number 3, you can start your file from position number 4, you can start from your file from position number 5. Okay, I mean depending upon the block. So I think you can do it from 3 4 5, you can do it 4 5 6, you can do it like 5 and 6. Yes, so 3 to 6, any location you can start your file and you are done. Okay, there is no issues. But the problem is external fragmentation. Okay, now suppose you have allocated the file as these three spaces. Now these two spaces are wasted, these are internal files, so this will become one. Okay, but then you are having a lots and lots of fragmentation in between. If you somehow allocate the file in this way, it's okay, you are done. What if you are having a file of 4 from now onwards? Okay, so this space is wasted. So there is a lots and lots of fragmentation. What if the file is deleted in between? Okay, there is the problem. So how to determine how? Okay, so this is the first problem, the fragmentation. The second problem is how to determine how much space a file should give. Okay, so for example, in this we are saying that these will take 3 blocks. What if user want to increase the size of the file? Okay, what if if the file is deleted? So whether you will ask the user, you will keep a user defined value, so no issues, we don't know. Okay, and this is somehow impractical to ask in advance that how much blocks the file needed or how much data you will store in your file, right? So this is another problem. The third problem is what happens if the file needs to grow beyond the allocated space. So suppose we are having this file and initially we have given the 3 spaces to the file. The file grows and it will take 3 more spaces, but the file needs to grow even more. What you have to do, you have to copy all this block to some other location where maybe you are having 9 blocks, continuous 9 blocks empty. Okay, and this is a huge issue. Okay, so this is not a good way to allocate the file, and I hope you all agree with this. Okay, so contiguous allocation to a file is, like, performance wise it may be good, but it is not practically possible because it will create a lots and lots of problem. Okay, that we have discussed. So the another way of allocating the file is keep a pointer in each file block to the next block of the file. Okay, this is very simple and intuitive, right? So the way is as shown in the figure. This is called linked allocation. We are having the directory structure. In the directory structure, we already know what is the starting block of the file. Okay, so for test.c, suppose 7th is the block number. We will go to the 7 block number, read the content of the file, read the content of the file. Okay, and then this will tell us where to go next. Sorry. Okay, so if the information says okay, you have to go to 3, so from 6 then we will go to 3. We will read the content of 3. From 3, where to go? You have to go to 5, so we will go to 5, read the content. Then you have to go to 1, read the content. Okay, and then there is a -1, so -1 indicates suppose end of file, so there is an end of file marker. Okay, but if end of file marker is not encountered, you have to keep traversing the blocks, okay, to read more about the file. So let me again come back to this point. It is simple to implement. Directory just needs to keep track of the first block in the file. Okay, it allow easy grow and shrinking of the file. If the file shrinks, okay, if you delete some data, so if suppose all the data from this block is deleted, what you need to do, you just need to say that this block is now free. Okay, and you have to set a few pointers that you from, so there is some error in the slides. Okay, I don't know. Yeah, so this is coming actually from 7. So you have to say that after 7 you have to go to block number 5, not to 3, because 3 is now freed. Okay, so from 7 you, so when the file is grow or shrink, it is very easy to handle. If the file grows, you will say that one more block is given, so maybe 0th block is allocated. So after reading this, you just go to block number 0, and then there is an end of file. Okay, so it allows the file to easily grow and shrink, and it has no external fragmentation. There is no fragmentation. Why? Because you are just dealing with one block. Okay, why I am talking about external fragmentation? Because internal fragmentation is still possible, and you all know what is internal fragmentation, that we have discussed, that within a block, if even only one space is allocated, we will declare that block as occupied, and this is called internal fragmentation. In the disk there is a space, but we cannot allocate the space because that it comes under a particular block which is under occupied state. Okay, so in linked allocation there is no problem of external fragmentation. Any question in this?
Ma'am,
Yes.
I mean linked allocation, how can we come to know that this block is empty?
That we already seen, right? So we will use any of one of those method that we have seen to manage the free space.
I mean bit that bit allocation.
The bit vector, maybe the linked list, the clustering method, or the grouped linked list method. Okay,
Okay.
so with
Okay.
that we are aware of what are the free blocks. Now what we are discussing now is how the files are actually written on those blocks, or how to allocate the file, how to allocate these free spaces to a file. Whether to allocate contiguous space, so if there we need 10 blocks, so we have to search in the bit vector for the 10 contiguous blocks that are empty and then allocate the file there, or whether to do something else like we are doing in the linked list. Is it clear now? So these are two separate things. The first part that we have discussed is about how to manage free blocks. Okay, and now we are dealing with how these free blocks are allocated to the file. Okay.
Okay, ma'am, got it.
All right. Yes, but still there are few problems. No, so let me identify those problems. So the problem is a small portion of the file space is used for pointer instead of for the data. But this is not a huge issue. You understand what it means? So when we are writing, this one a small portion of this block is used to store the information of the next block. Okay, but again, that is not a big issue. Now, to find a random byte in the file, what you have to do, you must search through all the other blocks. Now this is little problematic. Okay, suppose so if you are storing or you are dealing with a sequential file, then this method performs very well. But whenever you are dealing with a database, okay, and suppose you want to go to a record number 1 which is stored at this block, you this directory structure, we will read block number 7. Read block number 7, then go to FAT. Once you are done with block number 7, then you have to go to block number 3. Then, so first you have access this. Now second, you have to read this data. Then go to 3. Where to go next? 5. Okay, go to 5. This is the third access. Okay, so instead of storing this linking information or block information inside the file, we are making a separate table which is known as FAT, file allocation table. Okay, and this is a single table system wide. Okay, so how many entries are there? Again, number of blocks. How many entries? It is equivalent for each block there must be an entry. And so we are having this FAT table. So what will be the size? So suppose you want to store a 16 GB, you are having a 16 GB hard disk. Okay, and 16 GB hard disk means 16 into 10 to the power 9 bytes, right? And we have divided this into 4 KB cluster. So how many blocks we need to make an entry in the FAT table? 4 into 10 to the power 3. Okay, so what calculation I am telling is 1 KB is equal to 2 to the power 10 bytes. You all know this, right? Yes or no?
Yes, ma'am.
Yes, ma'am.
And this is equal to 10 to the power 3 bytes. Okay, 1 MB is equal to 2 to the power 10 into 2 to the power 10 bytes. That is 2 to the power 20 bytes. Or you can say, so let me write it 2 to the power 20 here only. Okay, I hope you all are aware of this. 2 to the power 20, 10 to the power 6 bytes. You can also write it in this way. 1 GB is equal to 2 to the power 30 bytes and 10 to the power 9 bytes. It is equivalent to this. Okay. So whenever I am telling 16 GB, right? So 16 GB means 16 into 10 to the power 9 bytes. Okay. And 4 KB means 4 into 10 to the power 3. And this will actually give us 4 into 10 to the power 6, right? This is 4 and this is 6. Okay. So how many entries will be there? 4 million entries will be there. You agreed? In the FAT table, how many entries you have to do? If the total disk size is 16 GB and you have divided the entire disk into 4 KB clusters. Okay. So how many blocks you are having? You are having this many blocks. So you have to do this many entries in the FAT table. Okay. And if each entry is of size 32 bit, then what is the size of the FAT table? 32 into how many entries? This many entries. Okay. And this is equivalent to 128 into 10 to the power 6 bytes, which is equivalent to 128 MB. Okay. Are you beginning to see the point? Yes. Okay. So in if you are having a 16 GB hard disk with 4 KB of cluster size, you need 128 MB size FAT table, and this FAT table is disk wise. It is not for a separate file. Okay. For the entire disk, you are making one FAT table. Okay. And the very one more add-on advantage of this FAT table is now there is no need to keep a separate bit vector for free spaces and all. You can keep that information in the FAT table only. So if this block is free, you can save some information that this block is available. Some indicator is maintained to show that these are the free blocks. Are you get the point? So FAT table is used for both the purposes. It can be used, it is actually used for maintaining the free blocks, and it is also used to maintain the information about the allocation of the file. Okay, so you can ask me if any questions. If there are any questions, please go ahead, ask. This is an important file system. If you want to access it fast, you can cache it in the memory. Okay, and this method work well in both sequential and random access, and you all know the reason, because we are having the FAT table. If you want to do random access, you can just directly go to that file, that particular block, right? If you want to access block number 1, you can directly go to that block number 1. No issues.
Any drawbacks of FAT table?
There are few drawbacks. So one drawback is the size. You can see in 16 GB you are requiring 128 MB. Okay, and that too when you are making 4 KB clusters. So cluster is having their own internal fragmentation thing. Are you getting the point?
Yes, I'm getting.
Yes, and there are the size is actually used, and we are using now the hard disk in terabytes. So you can think of the size of this FAT table. Okay, and also we are using 64-bit system, not 32-bit system. Okay.
And is the size the only problem?
Size is a problem, fragmentation is a problem, but yes, it performs well in sequential and random. So file accessing is not a big problem, and therefore Windows has switched from FAT to NTFS. If you know, there is another file system that is followed by Windows now. So generally in 32-bit system, Windows follow FAT file table or file allocation table scheme. Okay. So the aim of this lecture or the aim of explaining this is to get you aware of that these are the role of file system. So whenever operating system install the file system on your hard disk, before it is available for use, what it is doing is, it is doing actually this. So when we are installing Windows, it is making this fat table. It is counting all the blocks, storing all this information, and making this fat table in the hard disk. Okay. All right, now, so this is, we have seen what Windows is doing. Now let's have a look at what Unix is doing. So Unix is having another method of file allocation, and I will conclude my lecture by explaining, after explaining this file system to you. Okay. So what Unix is using is called indexed allocation, okay, or somewhat related with indexed allocation. In index allocation, what we are doing is, so the another solution, we have seen few solution. One is the contiguous memory allocation, then linked list allocation, then we have seen FAT, which is the extension of linked list allocation, and now we are looking at indexed allocation. So in index allocation, what we will not keep, we will what we will do, we will record all the locations of the file block in a separate file. We are not making any table or anything like that. We are making a separate file. Okay, and that is important. Now this file is referred to index node, and since we are having a separate file, it is, we have to make this for each file. So there are separate file or index nodes for each file. Are you getting my point? And these nodes are known as inode, and inode is a very important concept in Unix. Inode means index node. And what is this index node? It is a node which record all the locations of a file. Okay. It contain all the pointer to the blocks that the file currently owns. So let me show you the diagram. The things will be more clear. All right. So now this is our disk, right? So generally what operating system, not generally, but actually what it will do is, it will reserve some blocks, some disk block to store inode information, to store this index information. Is it visible? Yes.
Yes, ma'am, visible.
All right. All right. So what now we will do? So we will go to a particular directory. We will search for the file, right? And it will give us some location. And this location is actually the location of inode of that file. Okay, now we are not going directly to the disk block or the data block. So all these are disk block anyways, but what I'm referring to is data block. In case of FAT, you are actually, the address stored here is the address of data block. The block number is the block number where the data of the file is stored. Whereas in index allocation, when you search the directory structure, you get the inode number. It means it is the block where all the information related to this file is stored. Okay, so first you have to go to that block. So I will go to block number 1. Now this is a zoom view of block number 1. What is stored in block number 1? 7, 3, 5, -1, etc. Okay, it says that, okay, first you have to go to 7, read the 7th block, then read the 3rd block, then read the 5th block, and this is the end of the file. That's it. After reading the 5th block, there is -1. It means now there is no need to read anything. The file is completed, or end of the file is reached. Okay, so there are few blocks which are reserved, which are generally in the beginning of the disk, which are reserved for storing the inode information. And this node will contain the address of the data blocks. Right? So let me again read this out for you. So another solution is to record all the location of a file blocks in a separate file, and this file is known as index node or inode. It contains all the pointers to the block that a file currently owns. Okay, so there is a separate inode for each file. Okay, now let's see the amount of space required by this. So the amount of space a file can hold will be limited by the size of inode. Now there is an issue with this. Okay, suppose the inode contain 10 entries or 10 block numbers. So what could be the size of the file? if one block is of 4 KB, okay, then what is the maximum size of the file you can store? In one inode you can store only 10 blocks, or 10 block number, right? So 10 into 4 KB, that is 40 KB. That is the maximum size of the file, which is not desirable, right? We have many files of in GBs actually, right? So the amount of space a file can hold would be limited by the size of inode. If only 10 entries fit in the inode, that means only 10 different blocks could be referenced. Now, what we will do if we have to store the large file? We would need large inode, but this is not a good solution. Okay, large inode would be a waste of the space for smaller files, right? So, what we will do? We will use indirection. Now, let me tell you exactly what Unix is doing. Okay, so the structure of Unix inode is, our total size is 128 bytes. So each Unix inode is of size 128 bytes. Okay. The first part of the inode is the metadata of the file. Then there are total 13 pointers in the inode. Each pointer is of 4 byte. Okay. Now there are 3 types of pointer. 10 are direct pointer, 1 is indirect pointer, and 1 is doubly pointer, and 1 is triply indirect pointer. Okay, let me show you the actual diagram. So this is how Unix store our the files that we are using. So this is the inode. The size of the inode is 128 bytes. So in the beginning, there is some metadata, all the permissions and all those things that we have discussed about the file. Okay. Then the 10 entries are the direct entries. It means it is actually pointing to directly the data blocks. Okay. So these are the 10 entries. One entry is indirect block. It means it contains a block information which contain the data block. Okay. So this is called indirect block. One is doubly indirect. So we are referring to a block. It contains the address of another block and it contains the address of the actual data block. And one is triply indirect. Okay, so just make one more level. Are you getting this? Yes, no?
Yes, ma'am, getting.
Now tell me what is the size of the file you can store in your Unix. Okay, so let's calculate this. So this is very effective, in that sense, it is very effective file, file system, which will not waste much space. Okay. So if you are having small files, you can just use direct pointers. So if you are having files of, say, maybe some MBs or something like that, you can just use these direct blocks. Okay. And you are done. If you are having large files, you can use indirect pointers. Now, if you are using one indirect block, okay, how many pointers you are having? So maximum number of pointers in an indirect block is, so one block contains how many bytes? 512 bytes. Remember? And each, the size of the, this is 4 bytes. So how many bytes we can store? We can store 128 bytes. Yes, 128 pointers we can store. Are you getting this? You can refer to 128 blocks with one indirect block. Yes or no? Are you getting this?
4 bytes is the pointer size.
Yes, the address of the pointer now is of 4 bytes. Okay, and the block size is 12 bytes. So 128 pointers you can store by using indirect pointer, right? So what is the maximum file size? See, 10 direct blocks, 10 pointers. So 10 blocks referred by 10 direct pointers plus 128 blocks referred by one indirect block plus 128 into 128 pointers referred by one doubly indirect block, plus 128 into 128 into 128 blocks referred by one triply indirect pointer, right? So if you add it up, one file could be of the maximum size could be 2 million blocks. So one file could have 2 million blocks, can acquire 2 million blocks. So it is a huge size. Okay. So in that sense, Unix have modified this index allocation scheme to cater the files of small size as well as large size. All right. And where these inodes are stored, as I told you, they are stored in the beginning of the disk. So there are fixed location. Again, let me repeat, whenever we install Unix operating system, it will reserve, the beginning of the disk space for storing inode information. Okay, so you can think of it as a big table of inodes, and the 0th location of the disk will store the root directory information. Okay, so the first node is of root directory, and as on you'll keep on making the files, it will keep on making the inodes. Right now, what about read and write? So to read a single data block, it requires multiple access to disk. You need to go through indirect pointer, but in that way you can cache the block of indirect pointers into the memory, and you can enhance the performance, right? So what this point is saying, so whenever you are reading direct blocks, there is no issues. Okay, but somebody say whenever I am writing reading indirect blocks, so there are 128 blocks we are referring, how many times we have to go? So don't worry, just put this entire indirect block into the cache or main memory. Okay, and you get all the information of rest of the blocks. Okay, so caching can be done. Yes, so any question? So this is about indexed allocation. Okay, and generally this is known as ext file system in Unix. Okay, thank you.